What's up, everyone? Welcome to Among the Fins, my YouTube channel where I do music reviews. My name is Aaron, and today we're going to be checking out the new album, Color Decay, by the band The Devil Wears Prada. It has been 3 years since the Ohioan metalcore band released their last album, The Act, which was the very first review that I ever did on this channel, and I gotta admit, it was pretty negative. However, I am still a huge fan of the band. Roots Above and Branches Below is still a fantastic album to this day, and the Zombie EP, and even I'd be willing to say the follow-up album of that, or EP of that, Z2, are both considered to be legendary. And I'd be willing to say also that the only album I really disliked from this band was probably The Act. I mean, the production on it was hit or miss for me from song to song. The music felt really scattered. The vocal performances and the lyrics were all kind of questionable. The distorted vocals were a little too shrieky for my taste. I just couldn't get into it at all. There were some really good songs on there, but I'd be willing to say about 80% of it just wasn't really doing it for me. However, I'm not giving up hope on The Devil Wears Prada though. Color Decay is the 8th studio album from them in 17 years, so it's inevitable that they will definitely go through some changes and have some kinks to work out within those changes, and trying to evolve as a band and not trying to stay too stagnant. And I believe that they now have a new bassist, and they have a couple session musicians who are now actually part of the band and they're official members. So now we're gonna see how that changes their sound. The album opens up with the song Exhibition that has vocals that are right up in your face. The production is great with the crisp synth sound and kind of a grainy guitar tone. The cleans are really good in the chorus, and I like that it manages to be bigger than the verse without having any distortion going on. It's got all clean music, clean vocals, everything. The bridge has a really good build up into a fantastic breakdown with really low vocals from Mike. And to me, in The Act, it sounded like Mike's distorted vocals were, dare I say, shot. Like, it just wasn't there. He didn't sound too healthy because it was just so shrieky to me. And I understand that that's just his tone, and that's just what they are for him. And it's okay with that. It's just my own personal preference that it's not really my thing. And it was just not used in the best way I think it could have been, or I thought it could have been in The Act. But here, I feel like he's adjusted it a little bit more. It seems like he's kind of figured out how to use his distorted vocals in a better way, where it does still kind of tend to get a little shrieky sometimes, but he's managed to kind of make it work within the song. And then we have the song Salt, which deals with stagnation when trying to move forward and trying to progress. It's got a heavy melodic intro with a drum forward verse. The chorus kind of tricks you as it starts to build up, and then it just drops off into this really atmospheric section. The post-chorus, though, is really where the magic happens. It sounds so good. Chorus 2 delivers on that build-up the second time around, and it sounds really good with a lot of emotion. The lyrics, I gotta admit, aren't really like the best thing I've ever heard, but I mean, they do have some good metaphors in there, and they are catchy at times. Then we have the song Watchtower, which has a quick riff and drums with a little bit of grit on the vocals. I like how the frantic music really fits the lyrics. The chorus is just this wall of sound that comes at you with clean vocals, and it's got a solid hook. The second time the chorus comes around is twice as long, with a little bit it's got some synth added in there, which gives it like another layer, a little bit more texture to it. The breakdown is great, and even the vocals, which again, they weren't my favorite thing on The Act, and that's kind of what I focused on a little bit more with this album. They hit really hard, and I really enjoy them. And even the times when they kind of start to peak a little bit and kind of that shrill range, I'm still really digging it at this point. My favorite song on this album is probably Noise. It starts out with this, dare I say, pop punk sort of intro. It gets really heavy though with a solid riff. It's got a lot of dissonance. The vocals definitely feel more pushed in this song, and they are kind of teetering on that shrill, shrieky kind of area. But the more I listened to this song, the more I was able to get into it and really look past that, and it wasn't a problem for me at all after a while. The chorus is really good with a solid hook. It's pretty catchy. I actually do dig the chorus in this, even though it's a little bit more mainstream sounding. I really like the dynamics that it gives the song, and the bridge and the breakdown is just so freaking good with that thick, fat bass, it just hits you in the chest so hard. And the outro is a nice touch as well. And then we have the song Broken, which I believe is about battling alcoholism. I could be wrong, but just glancing at the lyrics a few times, that's what I took from it. And I gotta admit, the lyrics in this, specifically the verse, are just so well written and they're so vulnerable. The chorus, people are gonna really hate me for this because the chorus, it took me a little bit to figure it out, but the chorus reminded me of something. It reminds me so much of the same kind of melody on How You Remind Me by Nickelback, which a lot of people are gonna get really angry, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it still sounds so good. It sounds like, I don't know, they wrote something better than what Nickelback wrote, that's for sure. And the second time it comes around, they add a little bit more visuals in there through the lyrics, and he really expresses his fear. The bridge has a lot of emotion from the strings, and I just love how passionate and how real this is on touching on something that's just so personal for him. The vocals in the song Sacrifice to me, they seem to carry a lot of fear. There was a lot of emotion in there, desperation kind of. The distorted vocals sound really good in the main riff, and I really would have liked if they pushed through and had a little bit more presence in the chorus, not if they were like the only vocals, but just a little bit more to give the lyrics in there just that little extra oomph, which the lyrics had more angst to them. So it just seemed more appropriate to me. They really brought the heat though in verse 2, and the trap beat going into the bridge felt a little awkward, and this is the point where I didn't really care too much for the vocals, specifically just the delivery, the enunciations. I just wasn't really feeling it, but the breakdown was pretty good. Then we have the song Trapped, which starts out with the same kind of issues with the vocals and the verse. I do like the instrumentation though, and the more I listened to the song, the more it grew on me, especially when the clean vocals come in and they just kind of accent everything kind of throughout the verses a little bit, kind of in a chorus effect kind of fashion. The lyrics in this song hit really hard, mainly in the chorus, which is just so, it's just so endearing. And basically from like the first chorus to the outro, it's just, there's like a sense of comfort because that's kind of what they're trying to do. And they do it so well and not in like a generic mainstream kind of way that a lot of other bands I feel like would have done it. This is a lot more personal, and you could tell it comes from the heart a lot more. Then we have Time, which has a synth melody that kind of plays along with the lead vocals in the intro, which is technically also the chorus. The post-chorus riff going into the verse is just absolutely beautiful. It's probably the best riff on this entire album. The distorted vocals that sit on top of the clean vocals that kind of have like this echoey guitar thing give the song a lot of texture and another layer. I'd be willing to say this song is almost too repetitive as the chorus comes around about 4 times or so, but it's just, it's so good. The rhythm and the groove, it just keeps going and it keeps you from getting tired of it. It's almost got like an EDM kind of style of writing to the song and just the way it kind of loops around every time. And it's fantastically written. They did a really good job on it. Then we have the song 25, which again has not my favorite vocal delivery, specifically in the cadence and again the enunciation. The music does give this song a sense of mystery to the lyrics that are telling a really, it's a story about basically a relationship coming to an end. And on this part of the relationship, this person really, they don't want to say that this was all for nothing. And you can really feel that. Even though I didn't like the vocal delivery, it didn't take away from the song for me. I wasn't like in the act when I wasn't feeling the vocal delivery, it made me cringe a little bit more than anything else. But in this, I was like, I kind of don't really like it that much. And then the more I listened to it, the more I forgot that I didn't really like it. And this song's really a slow burn into like another wall of sound that is the climax of the song. It's just full of passion and it's full of hurt. And again, even though I didn't really like the vocals the first time, I still enjoyed this song a lot. My least favorite song on this album is definitely Fire. It's got like different sounds that emerge and pop up here and there as the vocals carry the verse. The chorus gets a little bit of help from some drums, and the distorted vocals also help out a little bit to give the song another layer. But I was just wanting more than drums and synth, especially at this point in the album where I feel like things have been kind of winding down already. I want something to pick me up at this point a little bit more, catch my interest again. And I felt like this song, maybe it's not the song's fault, but I feel like just where it popped up in the album, it just, I don't know, it kind of brought me down. Felt like this was closer to a closing track than something to carry us the rest of the way through the album. Then we have the song Hallucinate, which is the opposite of that. This has like a EDM industrial kind of quality to it that I enjoyed a lot. The harmonies in the chorus just makes the emotion drive even deeper. And this sound that they have in this song seems a little bit more fit for an audience. It's something that makes people want to start kicking and screaming in the pit. But I think that thanks to the delicacy of the song and the lyrics, it still keeps it from being more than just a live mosh pit song. There's more to this. So when you listen to it with headphones on, you could still really get something out of it, even though it makes you want to get up and start dancing around, which I mean, I guess you could do. But at the same time, it's, like I said, just more. The emotion's there. The intention for it to be more than that is there, which is something that I feel like a lot of bands miss when they're like, we're going to write a song that just has tons of energy and people are going to mosh to. So when you listen to it in your living room, you're like, oh, okay, like this song's pretty empty and soulless, which I feel like Devil Wears Prada did a really good job at avoiding that. The closing track, Cancer, was written by the keyboardist Jonathan after one of his heroes died. He said, I hope that he died from an illness rather than suicide or an addiction or something along those lines. And that's just such an eye-opening thought, especially this day and age where it seems like so many people who are looked up to and have fame and fortune and basically everything, the celebrities, people that are glorified for their talents, are dying of addictions and suicide more often than not. And it really is sad. And just the fear of losing somebody due to their demons getting the better of them is just such a horrifying thought, especially somebody that you look up to, you know? There's somebody that you, which happened with like Robin Williams, Trevor Strnad. There's just so many people that were really looked up to. They were very kind and genuine people. And like I said, their demons basically just got the better of them. And it's just so heartbreaking because when someone dies of a natural cause, then it's just like, okay, like their life just, it doesn't feel like it was cut short due to the fact that it was just too much for them to handle. Like they couldn't go on. They couldn't see hope after the struggles that they were going through. And it's just so much more heartbreaking. At least to me it is. And this is just such a beautiful and heartfelt song. And it's nothing short of a perfect closing track for this. Even though it's not specific to the theme of the rest of this album, just the whole feeling of it, just I hope it wasn't cancer. It's just, or I hope it was cancer is one of the lyrics. It just sounds so good. And I absolutely loved it. It was very heart-wrenching, to say the least. This album is basically everything I hoped for. I mean, the music is so good. Sure, it doesn't have like the most insane, spine-crushing, heavy riffs, but the composition for all of the music is just, it's perfect. It's what's required to communicate the specific emotion of each one of these songs. And the production is there too. I mean, you can really tell that they took their time with this album. And again, sure, it's not like super heavy, but there are some really great breakdowns in this that completely shocked me. I mean, I was so surprised to hear just how good these breakdowns were. And I feel like that they worked really well within the realm of what Devil Wears Prada's sound is. Like, I think that this is a huge step and a great step in the evolution of the band, of what they're trying to become. Like, the act, I feel like, had a lot of problems with it. Sure, I know a lot of people loved it, and a lot of people, it's just a very polarizing album. So a lot of people disagree with me, but I'm on the side of the act was not good. But it did have some really good creativity to it, and they definitely tried some new things that I feel like they just didn't have down yet. I feel like that's the main problem with the album. They had to work out some kinks, and I feel like on this, they definitely got it. I mean, the distorted vocals were used really, really well, even though it's not really what I cared for. They were used in a fashion to where it didn't take away from the song this time. When before, I would just cringe. Every time I heard those shrieks and how high his distorted vocals were, I'd cringe and I couldn't stand it and I would laugh. And now when I hear it, it just works well. And I know a lot of people are also going to argue with me that they aren't shriek, whatever. I feel the same way about Knocked Loose. So, I mean, go and leave a comment on one of those videos about how I don't know what I'm talking about. And, like, even though the vocals in this weren't always my favorite, and I feel like the riffs could have been a little bit better just to make this more enjoyable, those are all just more personal preferences to me. Like I said, there wasn't too much that any of these songs were lacking that I feel like it kept the song from getting the point across, or it took away from the song. So everything felt really complete. And I would have liked more songs with a little bit more energy going into the back half of this album. I mean, sure, like Time, 25, Hallucinate, those were all pretty good. But with songs like Fire, I mean, the more I listened to this, especially when reviewing it, it was really, really hard not to skip it. So, yeah, like I really enjoyed this album. I feel like this is a great step up from what the act was. So with all that said, I got to give Color Decay by The Devil Wears Prada a 7.7 out of 10. But I want to know what you guys thought of Color Decay, especially since the act was so polarizing. Some people loved it. So I'm curious to see if, I mean, for me, I feel like this is the right step afterwards. But I'm curious to see if people who also hated the act, or even people who did like it, liked this progression, or if they wanted to keep kind of the weird and awkwardness that was the act in there instead of having something that's more concise. Because I feel like that's what this album was. I feel like it had a really good point to get across, and they knew how to get to it, where before they didn't really, and it just works so well for me. So yeah, leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of Color Decay. Let me know what you would rate it. Also, let me know what your favorite song is. And while you're down there, don't forget to let me know what you want me to review next. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch my video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to give it a like. If you want to help support me and my channel, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell icon. Doing any of that stuff helps me out tremendously. And again, I just appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. And I hope you have a good rest of your day or night, whatever you happen to be watching this. And I will talk to you guys next time.
I was trying